Hello and welcome to the Futro Hidden Movie Gems podcast. I'm your host, Ty Christensen. I'm looking for my truffle pig. I've got Jordan Christensen on the pod. I want my pig. And we've got Cameron Mickle.
Cameron, you know what you should do for your quote? Just be like, wee, 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 wee.
Buenos dias. Iggy ziggy, iggy ziggy.
The quote I almost did was pig.
We don't get a lot of things to really care about.
Ooh, yeah. They got that tagline on the poster. It's so good. Yeah, It was one of the best quotes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, folks. Today we are discussing the movie Pig. This movie came out in 2021. It is in theaters still, I believe.
Yes.
Go see it. If you have a theater that's near you playing Pig, go see it because it's the best movie that came out in 2021.
Yeah.
Like, I went and saw Black Widow, and that movie is garbage.
And me and Cameron saw
Pig
Green
is-
Knight. Oh, brother. Oh, my gosh.
my
So
word.
many terrible
I
thoughts.
can't wait. Yeah, you guys have to do your little spiel about that. I love you guys were making me I was gut-busting laughing at your reaction to
That was Cameron in the
Green Knight.
theater. Cameron was laughing.
I totally predicted it. Guys, you heard it here first. I was like, this is going to be a nonsense garbage. It's going to be a all artsy-fartsy, no substance kind of thing. And you guys were like, no, it's going to be great. It's got the director from, what's it called?
Ghost Story.
Ghost Story. And you're like, oh, it's going to be like a really good film. I'm like, I don't know. I could spot the problems with the trailer. Guys, today, this movie, so it came out in 2021. It was directed by, this is his debut. This is a new director, Michael Sarnowski. Holy crap, this movie. Its writers were Vanessa Block and Michael Sarnowski, and it stars Nicolas Cage, the Rage Cajun Machine. It's crazy this stars Nicolas Cage because I don't think of this as a Nicolas Cage movie. He literally disappeared in the role for me. That's amazing. It also stars Alex Wolff from Hereditary, and I think, is he the Jumanji kid or not?
Yeah.
And then it also stars Adam Arkin, Cassandra Violet.
Because his brother, Ty, is in Death Note. He looks so much like his brother. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah, his brother's in Death Note, right? Yeah. Those two actors look, they're like the Liam Neeson, or not Liam Neeson, Liam Hemsworth and Chris Hemsworth, right? Those two brothers. They look way too much alike.
Yeah.
Also stars Julia Bray, Elijah Gary? Looks like it says Ungravy, but it's Gvary. Ungravy. Weird name. Beth Harper.
I know. Well, you're probably thinking of gravy because of all the food they talk about in this movie. Oh, my gosh.
Dude, I know. This is like Ratatouille meets John Wick 3. or not even John Wick. See, I remember, Jordan, I want to talk to you about that, about expectations in this movie. Like, that's the problem with the internet. Sometimes you get somebody that makes a joke, and then it's like, oh, my expectations are now slanted. Guys, this movie
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Well, we'll get into it. Yeah, start.
This is a sweet, sweet movie. I don't know how else to describe it. This is a movie about empathy. Let's get into what was it like watching this movie for the first time and rewatching it for the podcast. I'll go first. I just watched this movie last week, and I actually saw it with the old man. Dad, I know you're listening to this. We went and saw it together at the theater, and I was so glad I did because this is the best movie I've seen in 2021 so far. And I remember thinking, there's still hope for independent movie makers and films like this. And there's still hope for Nicolas Cage to get another Oscar. May he receive another award for his amazing acting.
This is not the best movie I saw in 2021. It came in Nobody. It was way better than this.
Oh, well, I don't know. Like, I know it's funny that you say that. I do like the movie Nobody, but I still like this movie more.
You're high.
We'll get into it. But so what I love about this movie is I was in the theater thinking, oh my gosh, like I love a movie like this because I felt so much closer to this than any of the nonsense and throw up that I was being displayed on screen when I went and saw Black Widow. Like all just nonsense, just noise. And this movie was so sweet and so simple. It gave me hope. Like I'm hoping for more movies like this. I thought the pandemic would bring out a lot of more small budget films like this. This was just an amazing film. Just goes to show, like, you can do with a very small cast, a very limited budget, just a really incredible original film. So I'm really grateful that it came out, and I loved it. And I will say, one little side note, not so much to do with the movie, but we were eating a big, giant tub of popcorn, me and Dad, and then he taught me to dip a little mustard packet, and between, like, fistfuls of popcorn, you squeeze a little bit of mustard on your tongue, and it cleanses your palate. It cleanses your palate, and then you're ready to eat popcorn again. Totally turned me on to eating mustard between bites of popcorn, so thanks for that, Dad. It sounds disgusting, but it's really good,
You're
actually.
an animal. You are a pig.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for fat shaming me on the podcast, Cameron. Why don't you go next, Cameron? Share your amazing experience at the theater. Fat phobic.
No, it's available on iTunes, Ty. I bought it.
Oh.
So I watched this for the first time today for the pod, and yeah, I didn't know anything about it, and like I guess it was kind of good going into it because and the only thing I knew was Jordan told me, he's like, oh yeah, I was expecting like a John Wick revenge flick, but it's not. So I'm glad I knew that because otherwise I would have been extremely disappointed. But because it does give you that vibe as soon as he's like, we're gonna go get my pig. I'm like, oh snap, he's about to go get a bunch of tools and murder people, and instead he's like, I'm gonna cook up a really meaningful meal and make a dad cry. I was like, that was not what I was expecting. But okay.
Spoiler alert.
But yeah, overall, like cinematically, a pretty impressive film. Really well done, and a pretty solid performance from Nick Cage, I think, as well.
It's high praise, Cameron, from somebody that hates Nicolas Cage.
I don't like Nicolas Cage movies. You guys just praise him as he's like the second Jesus. I'm like,
dude, they need to get
Just
Nick
saying.
Cage performing as Jesus Christ, man.
I
would love that.
I would cancel that. I would get on the cancel culture and cancel that.
You can't cancel a meme, dude. He's transcended. Cameron, I love it. Jordan, how about you? What was it like watching the movie for the first time?
I like that I'm going last because I was the one who recommended this movie to all of you.
Get out of here. Who saw the trailer first? Was it you?
Well, I definitely saw the trailer first. So when I saw it, it gives off this vibe like it's going to be, like you guys said, the John Wick. Like, that's why I thought it was going to be John Wick. And so I went to the theater. I only watched part of the trailer. And I'm like, ooh, I'm excited to see this. But I was a little hesitant only because I'm like, it looks a little boring because the trailer didn't show any action. So I was like, but I still thought it was going to be John Wick. I'm like, oh, maybe he'll kill somebody at the end or something. And so, like, yeah, like Cameron said, like, up until that end, I was waiting for him to, like, start stabbing people or, you know, whip out something and just start mowing down people. But none of that happened. And the further it got in, I'm like, I think I love this movie. And it's just, I could not believe how powerful that ending was. I felt so overwhelmed and I felt like there was so much emotion in it. And not necessarily just because he lost his pig, like, there's so much more to it. And I'm really, really excited to dive deep into it because I felt like there was much more there. At least I pulled a lot from it. I'm very curious to hear you guys' thoughts too. So I'm really excited to get into this one.
Absolutely. It's a very simplistic movie on its face. So here's the plot recap. It's a truffle hunter who lives alone in the Oregonian wilderness must return to his past in Portland to search of his beloved foraging pig after she is kidnapped. Which I have to say, like, that was such a sad kidnap. That pig squealing for its life when it gets kidnapped, and then Nick Cage getting blasted in the face. That was terrifying. It was like a very horrific kidnapping scene. Like, that was really well done. I'm already getting into the things that I like about it. And my second favorite thing was like so first, going along with the pig kidnapping, pignapping, the emotion, like you said, Jordan. I teared up in this film. And then the second one, and it's about empathy. I love this movie. And then the second one was, I love how they used natural light. Like, almost the entire movie was shot very minimal lighting, and it was all, I believe it was all natural light. It was just really well done, and I think it added to the atmosphere, and just very calm, warm lights. Just a great movie overall, so I love it. How about you, Cameron? Two of your favorite things from this movie?
One of my favorite scenes was when he's fetching, like, what's his address? And he goes and gets the bike, and then the kid, like, was walking up to the car, and he's like, hey, that's my bike, and he just goes, ah!
Cameron, in the theater, everybody laughed at that. Yeah, people were losing their minds. Like, I knew there were some people that, like, are obsessed with Nick Cage and like, his memification. So I think they, like, wait for those moments, like, go into the theater.
Yeah, that was definitely one of those moments. I was like, a little excessive. Holy chill. That one was pretty good. My second favorite thing is I really enjoyed kind of, like, they did a really good job of kind of show, don't tell, like, his past, and, like, you saw how influential he was, and it's kind of like that John Wick or that Nobody, where, like, just the sight of him or whatever, people are like, we'll give him or let him do anything he wants. You're like, holy shiz, how powerful is this mofo?
Which is funny that you say that, Cameron, because there are other ways to be a bad. That's all I'm saying. He's the bad of gastronomy, you know? I'm just saying, like, I understand what you're saying. Like, obviously it doesn't patch the same physical punch, but I love that his past was revealed through the characters. That you were like, this guy was a fetching legend. And I love it when they cut that one guy, he goes into him, and he's like, you're nobody anymore. No one's ever even heard of your name. Like, you've been gone for 10 years, you know?
See, and that's I love, like you said, there's a lot of respect, and there's also on the other end, there's a lot of people that hate him,
which was weird.
Yeah,
I want to get into why you guys think that might be. I have a few thoughts of why that might be.
I mean, how could this not be more relatable than ever today? Like, there's so many people from history. They're dredging up all this filth and stuff about these people from the past who weren't perfect. And it's just like you got all these people that either hate or love these people from history. And there's like such a disrespect. And I just, that got to me. Just, I love the idea of people. My favorite parts, I'll get into my two favorite things. One of them is just the fact that I loved when there'd be certain people that had such a respect for him. Like you guys mentioned, yes, it does come from John Wick, but just like, I love that there's certain people that will treat him like we would certain elders. And it's like, you know, we respect everything you've done for us, and kind of that legend that you've left. There's something so powerful about that, because I think there's also on the other end, which it showed, which is there's such a disrespect for those people as well. Where you got that one guy that just wanted to beat the shiz out of him and just punch him in his face as many times as he possibly could.
And allowed him to get hit beyond the timer, right? To get his pig, or to get the address.
Yeah, that made
to win
me
the
sick.
bet.
That guy that
it was
just
1
let the
minute, and
timer
then
go.
once the minute's over, he just allows him to keep getting beat. You're like, what on earth?
It's just like, did he do something to him in history that we don't know about? Or is it simply... That's another thing I love about this film.
Jealousy.
Yeah,
that's my
jealousy.
prediction.
Yeah,
and also like a wasted talent. So everyone knows him as like this incredible chef, and the fact that he has now recluded himself.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people are bitter. They're like, you have such a great talent, and now you throw it away because you couldn't get over your loss. So I love that. I love that. Like you said, there's a reverence for Nick Cage in this movie, or his character, I should say, that hasn't been paralleled in a lot of movies. Like you said, don't show, don't tell. They did such a good job at establishing who he was, and it's still mysterious all throughout the movie, because I didn't even get the sense that he could cook. At the very beginning, it showed him like making some scrambled eggs in like a skillet or something, or like mushrooms or something, and it looked good-ish. But I'm like, the guy's like living off of the land, so he's probably not eating a super tasty meal. And then like you find out he's like this amazing chef. And he never forgets a meal that he makes for people. But you love that.
Yeah.
And he makes meals that make grown men cry.
I know. He made a grown man cry
so
with his
good,
meal.
I'm
With
gonna
the
cry.
fetching meal.
Well, but you know why he
John
cried,
Wick.
Cameron, though? You understand, right? I just want to make sure.
I'm aware.
Okay, cool.
I watched the movie.
Yeah, Cameron, it's
Sorry,
because it reminded him of the one meal that he had when he was, went home with his wife.
The one
they
time
used to
that
fight.
he was happy. What a
The one that
terrible
he went home
marriage.
to talk to
Holy
his son about.
shiz.
It's so
The
beautiful.
the only time ever in his marriage that he came home from a dinner smiling and happy. What the fuck type of marriage is that?
No, he was happy, just not with his own wife. And then she finally got sick. Oh my gosh, guys, there's so much. I love the dynamic. Oh, sorry, Jordan, you're not done with your two, right? Or did you?
No,
already
I
do
talked
two?
about, is the word dichotomy just the
The dichotomy.
I don't even know if I'm using that word right. Just the
the dynamic dichotomy of the duo of the dynamic duo.
well,
That's good.
it's just like how people treat them on both sides. It's could not be more relatable
The
today.
duality, might you say?
I should probably stop trying to use big words. I sound like such an
Yeah,
idiot.
dude. Seriously, all D words anyway. Jordan, I love what you're saying, because in the end, I think it is chalked up to like jealousy, because I don't think he wronged anybody. In fact, it was really sweet. There are moments in this movie that I was like on the edge of my seat, because I'm like, what is going to happen? My favorite scene, and I just had to mention it because I mentioned the two things I like about the movie. My favorite scene is when he goes into the first restaurant that's like pretty nice and fancy, and he goes and talks to the chef, and he's got the fakest smile, and he talks to him, and he just like cuts him down to size. Like he's like, what are you doing here? When we worked together, you told me like I fired you, and he's like laughing, but he's like dying on the inside.
Yes.
What was that scene? And he's like cutting him down to size. Like he's like, what are you doing here? You said that you wanted to own an English pub. Like you didn't want to do this. What are you serving this mediocre food?
To people that don't care about
No one here is
you.
gonna love you.
Yeah.
No, everyone's phony. Everyone hates what you're doing here. They're all taking advantage of you. And I was like, oh my gosh. They're so sad. And he keeps saying like, oh, here we try to create a cuisine experience. And he's just like, he won't stop. He just looks so phony the whole time, and Nick Cage just cuts him down. Like, that was the first scene where I was like, oh my
Well, he
gosh, I
sounds
think I
like
love
he's
this
so
film.
part of the machine that is society. Like he's just another
Just a
piece
cog.
in that.
Yep. And it's all fake. He's built this house of cards. None of it's going to stand the test of time, because in the end, he's just appeasing this notion of like nobility or like high class by making this restaurant with food that Nick Cage totally disrespects, by the way. You see him like squish it with his finger. They bring like this orb of like smoke and everything. And it's like this or whatever
it's almost like it looked like a picture off of Instagram more than than taste. It's just it's like what can look good as I take this photo, not what's actually where's the actual heart and love that goes into a passion project, like something that you truly genuinely love other than just being, part of the system. Like, I don't know. It's so beautiful. This movie is so beautiful.
I thought
what?
For me, the message that I kind of got and I thought was really cool is I think it's a really interesting dilemma that Good Will Hunting talks about as well. Is like if you have like to whom much is given, much is expected, but at the same time it's like, but doesn't that take away their free agency to choose what they want to do? It's because everyone in Good Will Hunting was like talking to Matt Damon like, you're such an idiot for throwing away. You have like you have the best brain, one of the best brains of all time in math, that you could literally break record this and that, like you could find new lengths. And he's just like, well, what if that's not what I want to do? What if all I want to do is break bricks like for the rest of my life? Like, isn't that my choice? It's my life. And I think that's a very interesting dilemma. It's kind of the same thing with this, where it's like Nick Cage has such a talent, but he's like, well, what if I just want to like live off the land with my pig and do whatever the F I want? And then some people are going to like still respect you, but then some people will be like, wow, you're such, like, you wasted like.
And to be fair, Cameron, I even think it's even sadder than that. It wasn't like a selfish desire. He was so broken up about the loss of his wife.
Oh no, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And so,
it wasn't like, I can just do whatever I want, right? Yeah, I just thought of it more empathetic.
Yeah, he chose like to just mourn and just like mourn in his like live in his sorrow rather than try to overcome it. So that's what I think is super interesting, is because like for everyone else, it's easier to be like, oh well, you wasted all of this, and it's like, well, you don't understand. Like, I am a person too, and like I have wants and desires, and just because I have a talent for this doesn't mean that it's who I am.
Right, you never see the hurt that's going on inside, right? And that's why I love this movie. It's all about empathy. What a great, moral, good movie, right?
Sports athletes who like retire earlier than everyone wants them to, earlier than before they have brain damage and every bone in their body's broken. People are like, oh my gosh, you're throwing away your life. And it's like, dude, I have worked so hard and I made so much money, and it's like, why do I have to appease you? Like, at the end of the day, you don't care who I am. You just care what I like output.
Sounds like you're talking about Brett Favre or something. You just couldn't quit. Just couldn't stay retired, right?
Well, and there's so many moments that I got emotional. One of my favorite moments is when he's in his car and just the wind's blowing in his hair. And I almost, with the sound, I mean, whoever did the sound to this, sound mixing, way to go. Because when he's driving and the wind's blowing through his hair and I just hear that breeze, I almost felt like I could feel it. And I just felt like there's moments in your life that you just have to like kind of soak in your surroundings and be grateful for, what you do have and what's there. Because I feel like there's just, this movie is just, I feel like so real. I just feel like there's so much phoniness in our society, and we live, and it's just like, oh, you just need to bury it all deep down inside you. It's just, this movie talks about loss and love, and there's just so many beautiful messages in this film. I just feel like you can take so much out of it.
Yeah, I don't even get my morality from, like, I don't know, Black Widow anymore, Like, Avengers used to be someone you could aspire to, like Superman, Batman. Well, maybe not Batman because all his parents have died. Like, I guess you can aspire to be a rich person so you could do vigilante justice. But, like, Superman was always someone you wanted to aspire to be, right?
Well, and you connect to none of them. They're so robotic. Yeah. It's just like, they're part of the machine.
Exactly.
They're that fake guy that shows up and he's smiling and he's like...
Yeah, we tried to provide a wonderful experience, and he just kept
and
smiling.
He just kept
fighting back tears.
And it's like it was like he was talking to the wall. And it's like, who are you? And that's what he was helping him realize, like, who are you really? Because I don't know who I'm talking to. You're just part of this machine. Ugh, so good.
I love it. So another favorite thing, I love the dynamic between both Amir and Rob. Like, I love their conversations together. Like, it starts with him like being really reluctant, being like, "Look, I buy your truffles or whatever, but like, I don't even need to do this favor for you. And I love like every little aspect of their relationship, because as it starts to grow, he starts to understand him more. And the best is that he's fundamentally connected because it's his own father, and he's afraid to stand up to his own dad. That was so well done. Don't show, don't tell. I love every time you see Amir, he's like some of the first time you see him, he's listening to like opera music. But it's like why he should like this classical music.
Yeah,
like,
he's
not even
like
listening to
trying
music.
so hard. And
he's trying so hard to fit into this high class thing. And then when you see him, like he has to psych himself up, and he's like cussing up a storm, and he's like talking to the mirror. He's like, yeah, you listen to me now. Like I'm the one that's making the deal. It's like, if you want this, and then like it just cuts away from him, like in the middle of while he's talking. They do it like twice in the movie. No one gives him an inch. Like no one gives him the time of day. Not even the editor of the film respects Amir. It's so funny. Like they don't respect him.
I feel like him
love that.
sometimes when I'm like watching movies from the Criterion Collection. I'm like, this is the most boring crap I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, why do I need to like this? And then I gotta like watch film essays explaining it, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And it's so funny when he tries to explain himself, and he's like, and he like can't seem to he just trails off, and his explanations are great.
Absolutely. And I love too that there's like there were so many aspects of this world. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this movie, it like builds, like it kept building to something, and I was on the edge of my seat, and it wasn't because it was like, oh, there's going to be this magical physical showdown. I guess I always knew that, but in the end I was like, where's going to be the emotional stake of everything? And of course it hits you at the end. So spoiler, if you have not seen the movie, when he announces that his pig was killed because he couldn't find use for it after it was the two people that he went to go steal this pig, it was so devastating because Nick Cage like breaks down and cries, and he just weeps, and it got me. Like it was so sad because this cathartic release that you're hoping, like some small hope that he's going to find his pig and he's going to get it back and they're going to be reunited, it's completely taken away from him. There's just this devastating moment, and it's so tragic. And this movie does such a good job at preparing you for this all throughout the film, because he'd already lost his wife. You learned all this about his life. It reminds me almost of John Wick in the sense that his dog died, and it was posthumously sent to him, or it was killed, but it was posthumously sent to him by his dead wife, and that somehow transferred its essence. And the best reveal of the whole movie, and then my favorite part, was at the very end when he's like, we'll get you another pig, and he goes, you don't even need a truffle pig. Like you can tell by the way the trees, the trees or whatever, the shade, it'll lead you to the truffles. He's like, well, why did we spend all this time? He goes, I just loved it. That also made me tear up. It was just the saddest thing. Like, he didn't need the pig for the truffles. That's not why he kept it around, and that's why he like literally loved the pig. He was though, but he loved it, and I think that was so powerful. I haven't seen a movie about like empathy, loss, tragedy. Like it's an amazing film. Gosh dang it! Why can't we have more of this in anything? Like in any of the franchises or anything that I care about, horror movies, everything. Like the best directors today are the ones that understand good storytelling, and I just love this movie. So anyway, I've gushed about it enough. Do you guys have any nitpicks or things that you thought were have questions about the movie?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. There was things.
I did like how Nick Cage like beat up his car, and he was pretty pretty upset at that moment. Like that was when Nick Cage got off the handle, like kicking his car or whatever. I'm like, oh man, like not very empathetic to the poor kid. But again, it was such a great twist where you find out that the kid knew all along, and he's like refused to stand up to his dad. I just love that. I love that. That was such a great moment. And then, another great thing. I love the shot. I wrote all these down because I didn't want to forget them. The shot where the son is looking at the office doors. I don't know why. You guys remember Dad always had like a door to his office or whatever in the house. That was just looming overhead. I love the way they shot that because everyone's felt that like even Amir, like he would always go up to the door and he was too afraid to like he was such a shy little kid. Like you said, Jordan, it transported you in that moment. Like you felt like the wind. I felt that nervous feeling you feel like you're about to go speak to your father or someone that you desperately desire respect from, You just hope that you're not going to be chided, chastised, or kicked out, or even scorned or whatever, right? Like you're so desperate for approval. He's standing at the door and he calls out, and he even does it to his mother. He like talks outside the door, but he's not even brave enough to go in and talk to his mother that's in the senior living care or the hospital. She's in the coma, right? So that was so good. Amir's arc. So not only did Nick Cage have an amazing arc, but you also had the son who was directly tied into his. I just loved it. So good. Gosh dang. Sorry.
No, it's all right. I'm like
all
tearing
over
up
this
just
movie.
thinking about it. It's such a beautiful film.
Yeah, and at the very end, the idea that he made this meal, and the father kind of scoffs at it, and when he first takes that first bite, I'm like, what is going to happen? And then he just takes a bite, tries the wine, and he like stops, and you're like, is he poisoned? Like, I was like, what is going to happen? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is just the sweetest film about, like, he recreated the meal of a time when they were I just...
Well, not just that, but him
great.
telling him, like, I've never forgotten a person I've served. Like, that is a beautiful thing to say, because it's like, you know, there's certain, you know, businesses I know, like, I was just thinking, like, McDonald's, those two guys that started it wanted so badly to, like, create this thing that people would come and love and share. And then, you know, then Michael Keaton comes in and just, like...
From the founder, right?
Yeah.
Just, it's the soulless corporation.
Yeah, and then
there
it turned
to
into
make some
this...
money.
Exactly. A giant corporation. It's like, how can we make money? And suddenly it's like, well, we got to change all this. And so it's just, it's such a beautiful thing when he says, I know every meal I ever made and every person I ever served. You know, you're not just part of, you're somebody. I love that, because we all want to be like identified and not feel like we're just another thing that'll just essentially fade into the distance and never exist, you know?
And even validated, right? Yeah, we
Yeah.
want to be validated. I love that, Jordan. Great observations. Do you guys have any other quotes that you wanted to throw out?
I wish he would have taken a shower at least once. Man, poor guy.
I know.
I know, he looks
Do you
so
need medical
haggard.
attention? No.
I love the, what does he say? He's always like, he was saying something about the city, and he's like, hey, you know, I can't even remember what he was saying, something about, like, he says, like, this nihilistic, he goes on this rant where he talks about how the whole world could just be buried in the sea, and it likely will soon. Like, that was his first talk that he had with Amir in his apartment, and I loved that. And then I also loved, like, there was a great
And then
scene
at the
where,
very
like,
end of his conversation, I love too, he's like, next time you make French toast, make it with dry bread. So good.
I know, I love that. He has but it wasn't even like harsh. It was just like such a funny. And there's a great scene where you already know what it was going to taste like, because without showing, don't tell. They had like the smoke alarm going off, and he's trying to like fan it off. I thought that was so funny, because he's like, I don't cook very often. You're like, we know the smoke alarm was going off.
Well, and I love when he takes
Making
one
eggs.
bite at that restaurant, and then he's like, I like to speak to the chef.
Yeah, and then he sticks his finger, just like squishes the little thing that's on his plate. Like, he's just like, this is not. I can't even remember what he says, but yeah, it's like, this isn't good or whatever. It's so great, and he just cuts him down to size. It's
Well,
great.
and I love he doesn't say a lot, but when he does speak, it's just powerful. I mean, he knows all the right things to say. Obviously, he's a bit more nihilistic than I think he could be. I mean, just unfortunately, that's because of, you know, I'm sure the loss of his wife and so much loss in his life. It's just, I think that's maybe why he's so nihilistic. But I love everything he says. Oh my gosh, this movie is so good.
I love it. I think it's great what you guys have said. Do you guys have any other quotes that you guys remember? I just think that I really liked
I like the one where he said he's like, that's an active volcano or whatever. He's like, yeah, but we're not moving to Seattle. F Seattle.
I know, dude, right? I loved the few monologues that were really great when after it's revealed that I love how Nick Cage gets the Amir to go get the wine selection from his own personal stock, and he goes, tell him that you sent me, and he's like, I need to speak to this person, and he's like, no, it can't be bothered right now. And he goes, Rob sent me, and then it just like the buzzer goes. I just love, like you said, don't ask, don't tell. All these connections that he had in this giant winery, and he pulls out this wine selection, and Nick Cage was so merciful that he extended the credit to Amir, to his father, that he chose the wine selection to go with the meal. I just thought that was so sweet. It was such a sweet thing for Nick Cage to do. Like, it could have been like, yeah, your son, you're right, he's no good, you know, he's never going to be like who you are, you know, heartless businessman. But nor should he. He shouldn't aspire to be like him, a terrible guy that hires men to go kidnap truffle pigs, you know, and
It
eventually
reminds me of Inception. It's like the fake dream or the fake idea that they gave Cillian Murphy of. It's like, I'm disappointed that you tried to be like me.
That's so funny you draw that. Yeah, like, and in the end, I hope he doesn't. I hope he learns that to not be like his dad. That's the essence I got from it. He's going to be his own man, because at the very end, he sleeps in his car, and doesn't he turn off the classical music? I thought that was a great motif, because that's his arc. In the end, he kept trying to aspire to be somebody he wasn't, somebody that he shouldn't even aspire to become, even though by all world standards, like, you know, successful, rich, powerful businessman. His father even says to Rob, Nick Cage's character, he's like, oh, he's not cut out for this work, you know, he can't do it. And I just love at the very end, he ends up turning off the radio. It reminded me of Mississippi Grind in that regard, where it's like, it's tragic in that movie, and it's really hopeful in this movie. A character that listens to this classical music and this guy explaining why it's important, he ends up turning it off, and he's able to rest easy. He like closes his eyes to sleep in his car, and I loved that. I was like, that was such a good way of showing, like, without him being like, I'm not going to be who my father was. It was just such a good, subtle way of showing, like, he's going to learn and progress in his life. He's a very dynamic character, and I loved that. That was so good. It's very subtle. If you don't know anything about what's going on, if you look away, you're going to miss these little subtle things that they have in the movie. And this movie is about two things: empathy and subtlety, you know, and grieving and loss and tragedy. It's all those things, and it's such a good film, though.
Well, and
even though it's so devastating.
This director doesn't treat us like we're stupid. He only tells us what we need to know, and then leaves a lot of stuff for you to fill in the gaps and for you to essentially project your own ideas and thoughts.
Right. They didn't show the flashback where Nick Cage was like owning a successful restaurant, and he's like talking with his wife, and they're all laughing, and it's in a sepia tone, and then all of a sudden the montage of her getting sick, and then none of that. Well, no flashbacks.
And we don't need to see what why that person didn't like him. Like
Yes.
You can
if he doesn't like him,
was he? Yeah. It's all for the better, because then you can project your own ideas, and like you can be a critical thinker. You don't need to sit there and say, "Oh, it was because of this." And it's like,
oh, he did this one thing. He upset people. It was like, in the end, I think most people respected him, but it was like, for some reason, this guy just hated him, and you're like, he wanted him to die in that moment. Yeah, right? He's letting him get beat to death with an inch of his life. It's crazy. For people that haven't seen the movie, there's like an underground fight club in this hotel for the hotel staff. I guess a bunch of hotel workers have enough rage built inside them that they actually want to pummel people for the whole minute, and they don't react or do anything. They just take it, and if they can, they get paid or whatever. It's crazy. So that's the thing that actually happens in this movie. And like you said, this movie took a few twists and turns where I was like, oh, they're gonna go that route. Like Nick Cage is gonna go fight someone to get some information, and he just takes a beating, and it's just so sad because he takes all this pain on. This is an incredible movie, an allegory to the whole arc of like the hero's journey, right? And like, very easy to relate it to Jesus Christ, and right, he like dying and ascending below them all to eventually arise and become a king. I just think that's so interesting, and this movie did a great job. Great hero's journey. I loved Amir and Nick Cage's chemistry. They were so good together. This movie's great. I can't wait to watch this movie again. So.
Oh yeah. I watched it twice already, and it gets better. I thought I was worried I wasn't gonna like it as much, but it's so good.
It's even better, I bet. I cannot wait. I can't wait to watch it again. I'm gonna make Maddie watch it with me because this is a great film.
I know, and if they just took out some of the F words, it could have easily been PG-13, maybe, because there's a few punches. I don't know, PG.
Yeah, I would just say for the material, like obviously it wouldn't engage a child probably
good point.
Because there's a lot of subtlety. But yeah, you're right. Like I mean, as far as, but again, like I wouldn't really change anything about the movie. For some reason, I love the idea that Amir is like cussing, because I think cussing is so childish. Yeah. Even though I do it for humor sometimes myself, guilty as charged. I do it for humor, but in the end, I'm like, it is a very childish thing. Like I love that he's trying to prove himself as a man, and it's just, he's not coming off that way. It's just, it's pathetic, it's sad, it's weak, it's unintelligent, you know, like I think of all those things. And so they did such a good job at this.
Yeah.
At this movie, portraying his character, and everyone gets their arc. It's so great. Man, I'm just smiling talking about this movie. Anyway, go see The Pig. Better than anything I'd seen all year. Do you guys have a...
It is my favorite movie this year, easily.
It is my favorite.
Nobody was way better. You're high.
No,
Which one,
sorry.
Cameron?
You guys are so high. Nobody is 100 times better than this.
That's so funny they say that, because like I said, I think Nobody is the best action film I've seen all year.
Sure.
Hands down. But as far as my favorite movies, I would watch this over Nobody anytime, and I would show this movie to anybody, just about anybody. I really would. So
what? I would say I'm the exact opposite. I wouldn't like. I think this movie's great, but I would not want to show this to anybody else.
Cameron's like, yeah, watch this movie with me, and they're like,
it's so boring. No one else would like it. Are you kidding
Cameron,
me?
have you seen okay, that is actually what surprises me. Cameron, the reviews for both audiences and critics are through the roof. Like,
really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
90. It got 98 from critics, if not 96, and it has like 86 from audiences or something like that. It's
so Cameron, you're part of the minority, Chief.
Cameron, you're Cameron's
I still enjoyed it. I just wouldn't show it to people. You're telling me at a group setting, you're gonna be like, "Hey, let me throw on The Pig." Absolutely not. Not a chance.
Got like a bunch of party guests coming over. There's like a party going on. You got club music.
And you
playing,
watch a movie
like,
about
hey, everybody, we're gonna watch The Pig.
Yeah, no thanks. thanks.
I mean, it's not like a party movie, but I would recommend it to everyone. That's my point. Like, yeah, it might not be like the movie where you have like 10 people over in your theater room watching it. You know, like maybe it's the one you recommend to people to go watch it on.
I know. I heard you recommending it to Ryan and Morgan. I was like, oh, that's such a good movie.
Oh yeah, I do, because like this is one of the few movies I would recommend to them. They watch like incredible things, and I'm like, this is one of those incredible things. You would definitely enjoy this movie.
Oh yeah, just
because like
thought-provoking.
they're so like I asked them like, have you seen any of the latest like I think they stopped after like Avengers 2 is what he told me.
I know they
and
missed
I was like,
Thor
you mean like Age
Ragnarok.
of Ultron? He goes, I don't remember.
Ty, they missed Thor Ragnarok, which I'm like, oh, that was the best one.
I know. I was like, that was pretty good. I liked it, you know. But again, it's like it's just they see through all the crap. It's like this is just rehashed and recycled crap. And I'm like, this is an original film, and it's still one of the most beautiful messages I've heard all decade long. I think this is going to be a great film. I hope it hangs around, and I hope that more people go see it. So, do you guys recommend The Pig? I highly recommend The Pig. I think anyone should see this film. I think everyone should see this film. And Cameron, I think it's fair to mention, like, the movie is slower. Like, it may not be a party movie, but definitely push it on everyone to see it. Like, go watch it for yourself. Go watch it with a loved one, you know, and get out the tissues.
See, like, it's the same thing like me and Jordan talk about. Like, it's the same reason I don't recommend Zodiac or tell everyone, like, that my favorite movie is Zodiac, because I wouldn't recommend Zodiac to a lot of people.
Right.
Because it's one of the slowest movies ever and depressing and freaking kind of psychotic, but it's such an amazing and a perfect film.
It is. It's a perfect film.
It is. There's nothing wrong with that movie.
I personally don't think it's a perfect film, but then again, I still think that the director...
What are flaws in it?
Oh, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know. See, you're putting me on the spot.
That's
I have no idea. I would say like The Social Network is a perfect movie.
Yeah, Social Network is way better. Sorry, Cameron.
The only reason I would argue
You're
that...
so high. You make me sick.
Sorry, bud.
No, because the Social Network did a really good job at capturing like the actual like. Then again, I grew up in high school when Facebook came out, so I understood it way too well.
I'm very aware of how good
Zodiac is a little just removed from me because I've never been a cop, I've never been an investigator, I've never been a journalist, I've never been a serial killer, so I don't share that much in common with it. That to me, that's why it's not a perfect movie. But see, that's subjective. I'm not saying objectively speaking, it's not a masterful movie. It is. I love it.
It's perfect.
Like this movie, dude. I can't wait to see this director's next work, man. If he makes movies like this.
The movie Social Network actually captured like how I feel about the world. Like I have like all this anxiety and like Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook just so he could get a girl to admit that he wasn't the worst boyfriend or whatever, right? He just wanted to be liked. He created this entire thing and he went through all this lawsuit, all this money for that fetching to create Facebook, where he literally created like the internet, the match. What was it called? Like the rating the girls on the campus.
Yeah,
that was so fun.
Yeah. So again, it did such a good job at encapsulating like what it was like to be alive in this time. Like I think people will look back and be like, if you want to know what the experience of the human experience was during that time, the early 2000s, like that's it. Like that's the movie to show them and be like, this is what was going on. People betraying each other. It's so good. Zodiac is kind of just like this is
what was your audience's reaction tied to this movie, The Pig?
So I saw it with like 8 of the people, and we were all chuckling. Like the people that were there, like they loved the moments that were like sweet. I could hear people crying. This lady was crying behind me. Like it was very emotional. Yeah. And there was only like probably 10 of us in the theater. Like really not all that many.
I was afraid I was the only one crying, so I was like trying to cover myself. I'm like, oh no, so are people gonna see?
No, I cried twice. I teared up with obviously the reveal, obviously that his pig is lost, and then there was one other moment where
no, I didn't cry at that part. It was definitely the dad eating and then realizing and recognizing that it was the same meal he had with his wife. That got to me. And then him in the car driving home after he lost the pig. Like, you just have to enjoy those moments in life, especially when you lose things you love, like people. And
for sure. I absolutely love that. And so, those were the moments that choked me up. And so I highly recommend this film, guys, for all of you that have not seen it.
And Ty, did it not make you... I just felt like, I'm like, oh, yes, cinema's not dead. Like, I love these types of movies because I'm like, people that are expressing and, like, critical thinking, like, allowing the audience to make your own decisions and not be sat there and jammed a message down your throat so hard by Disney, like, you need to think this way, now listen. And it's like, no, like... Why can't I just think for myself? Like, let me have my own voice. Like, why am I not a person, a human being? Like, somebody that decides for himself, and it's like, no, Disney's like, this is what you need to believe, this is how you need to believe it, and
This is how you should feel.
this is how you should feel. And it's like, oh, I want to vomit, just jamming it so hard
great.
in my throat.
So great.
This movie's beautiful.
It's a beautiful film.
Sorry, Cameron, what were you
so-
saying? You said maybe you didn't what?
Maybe you didn't like it all that much, Cameron? Is that what you're saying?
I was saying maybe I'm like heartless or desensitized. I can't remember. I think the last movie I cried in was like
Marley and
Perks
Me?
of Being a Wolf.
What?
Perks of Being a Wolf.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was the first movie that was the first movie I ever cried in was Marley and Me. But
Dude, how could you not, man? We've all been through that. We grew up with dogs, so I mean, like, it was like watching Gus
That's the
put
saddest
down.
thing.
Yeah, it's
I
way
remember
too
because I was
close to
watching
home.
with you guys, and so I started squirting water in my hands and putting it on my face, be like, "Oh, I'm crying," even though I was actually crying.
Fudge.
Cameron, are we getting
'Cause I
back
did- I
into the
did-
Willow? I'm having super Willow flashbacks where you're like, sometimes like I learned I could cry on demand, so I would cry and be like, oh, I got you. And I'm like, in what social situation do you want to pretend that you've been crying to your friends? Cameron's like, oh, I'm really crying, even though I really am.
Yeah, well, it's because I didn't want to be seen crying in front of you guys. I was like 7.
Because Cameron was
We
a
all would
serial
have made
killer.
fun of you, Cameron. Yeah, because we were such terrible brothers, right? We were like, yo, poor Cameron, Iggy, Ziggy, crying. 'cause
You
the
guys
dog.
definitely would have bullied me if you saw me crying. Don't even.
I don't know. Depends on the movie. Like Jordan, he's like, I cried in the movie. I'm like, Jordan, you cry in every movie.
I love looking over at Mom to see if she's crying in movies. I'm like, oh, she's crying?
I do that anytime she talks about anything ever.
Anytime she's ever
Her
read one of the
history.
12 Days of Christmas stories.
Oh
There's
gosh,
never
dude. The one with
a
the
year.
kid, the Christmas orange,
The
or
Christmas
kid with
orange.
the car and his handicapped brother.
The clockmaker, or was it the clockmaker? What's his name? The cobbler or whatever,
Yeah,
the guy
the-
that makes the
yeah.
shoes. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's too funny. It's predictable. It cries every time.
Every
Please bet. So
time
which one's
without
gonna cry?
fail.
Okay,
That's
did we already say if we recommend this movie?
Yes.
yes.
We
You've
all
said
recommend-
like
oh.
1,000 times.
So
this is the
Cameron's-
best movie I've ever seen in my life.
I just wanna make-
Cameron's like, I'm not going to show any of my
Everyone
friends
ever
because
needs
I don't
to
want them
watch
to see
this.
me crying.
I just, yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to recommend it one more time. This movie is amazing. It's a masterpiece, and I think
It's
it's a
good.
beautiful, beautiful film.
We've been so conditioned to think it's going to be this like epic, big budget, big thing. It's like, this is a very subtle, sweet, simple, empathetic movie. Please. Knowing
Yeah.
that, take it into the movie.
I thought it was
and
going to be
see
like Mandy meets, what's the other one? The John Wick.
Right? Yeah, because someone made a joke in the trailer. He's like, I'm looking for my truffle pig. And they're like, oh, it's like John Wick getting revenge on the people that stole his pig, right? They like assumed he would go all John Wick on them. And that's not what this movie was. And I understand why we live in this time and age where we can like make jokes like that. And then like it can skew a lot of people's perception on like what a movie is and your expectations. But I was so glad I went in with the right expectations, knowing that this was a very sweet film. So very glad I saw it and absolutely.
Yeah, I'm
loved it.
all for a good revenge flick, but this is, I mean, embracing loss is also another beautiful topic. It's just powerful.
Yes, absolutely. What movies have you seen lately?
We
Cam?
love you, Nicolas Cage. I just had to say that.
Yeah, we we love you, Nick Cage.
You're pretty alright, I guess.
Keep doing this kind of work.
Cameron's getting there. We're slowly creeping.
Yeah. He's like, Nick Cage did a
Cameron
really
has
good
been
job.
baptized in the water.
Bathed in all the.
Actual cult leaders.
Oh man.
I wanted to take all the moments of Cameron on the podcast just saying like, oh, yeah, he was the best part of this movie. Just like cutting all the parts he said good about Nicolas
the
Cage.
positive
and
praise
then
about
I was
Nick
going to
Cage.
call it the conversion of Cameron to Nicolas Cage.
Version of Cameron.
Oh gosh, you guys are psycho.
Oh my gosh. Join us, Cameron.
Sorry, Cameron. What have you watched lately?
The only cult I'll ever be baptized in is Jake Gyllenhaal's cult. Holy fudge, dude. I'd get baptized in that cult in a second.
You already are, Cameron. You got a man
Oh,
crush.
Ty, do you know what Tatiana said in one of the photos? She's like, Maddie looks just like Jake Gyllenhaal in this photo.
Maddie looks like Jake
Yeah.
Gyllenhaal? Maybe Maggie
Like
Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal or Maggie Gyllenhaal?
No, Jake.
Your
Awesome.
fiance's high.
Yeah, well,
Awesome.
Jake's a sexy man, so he won sexiest man in the world in the magazine, so.
So my wife would pass as the sexiest man. Well, how about that, everybody? You heard it here on the podcast first.
I married a man.
It's ties into those. Okay, anyways.
Okay, so I watched the first Escape Room, which was really good.
Really
I
good.
also-
What?
Yeah,
Oh my
I
gosh.
told you, Ty. See, it was just good. Yeah, tell him, Cameron.
It's just fine. It's just
good.
It's meh.
The second one is meh to the T.
No. To be fair, the ending made me most excited because I was like, I could see a
Yeah,
sequel.
it was a really cool reveal of like, this is a sick world.
Yeah.
And then I rewatched Ace Ventura with the cousins, and holy fudge, that movie is so funny. like a glove.
Wait, you saw it When Nature Calls then?
No, Pet Detective.
Oh, wait, you saw the first one, so Pet Detective.
Do not go in there.
Yeah.
Why do you want me to leave? So you can beat him, fatty?
Yeah,
Saddlebags.
That's one movie that I think most people would agree did not age well. The entire plot centers around
It's just homophobic. Yeah, it's transphobic. It's so funny.
Ty, when I was a little kid, did you think that she had pooped her pants? Like, that's what I thought when I was younger. I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at.
Oh, the fact that there was like a
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite part is when she's like, "What do you know about pressure?" And he's like, "Well, I have kissed a man."
Hey, Cameron, don't laugh at that. That's transphobic now, all right?
Jim Carrey is off the hook on that freaking movie. He's so funny.
Dude,
That's one of the best
you've seen When
performances I've
Nature
ever
Calls,
seen of
though,
his.
right, Cameron? When Nature Calls a sequel?
Yes, but it's
Oh my
Pet
God.
Detective's better in my opinion.
No.
Because I grew up on that one.
Oh, really?
I watched that every 6 months. Every single time I go to Larly's, we would watch the same two movies every time. It was Pet Detective and then American Wild.
American Wild. What's that one?
It's like these three boys that like go on a road trip and find these like
wild.
Oh,
These,
wait,
like,
is that the one
bears.
with John Taylor Thomas or whatever his name is?
I don't know, but yeah, it's like it's like
They
it's
hunt an
almost
alligator, don't they? Or get attacked?
Yeah.
Yep. I remember that movie. He rides off with a moose or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that movie. That's so funny. Why?
So we would watch
those two movies?
those two every single time. It was so funny.
No,
So
to be
we
fair,
really
Cameron, we
those
had movies every
memorized.
time we do like a houseboat trip with our cousins. We would end up doing like this. We would watch Goofy movie like a million times, and Starsky and Hutch or all the Naked Gun movies. Like that was it. That's all they
Yeah.
had, and they owned on
Yeah.
VHS, and we would watch them over and over. Like every year we went there.
Yeah, like Larly would have other movies, but we would just be like, no, we're watching these two.
We're watching these two
rewind
again.
it on the VCR. And watch that shit like 50 times. So we had that.
so good.
It was really fun. It was the first time I'd seen it in like 6 years, and it's just so quotable. Sounds broken. Most likely, sir.
I love Ace Ventura.
Yes, Satan.
Yes, Satan. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were
Sorry,
somebody
sir. I
else.
mistook you for someone else.
That's so good. So funny.
So then I also saw Bernie with Jordan, which is fetching amazing.
Bernie?
I can't wait to do
Jack
a double
Black.
feature of that and Polka King. I love Jack Black. I love him.
He's great.
It's so funny. That movie, I can't believe it's a true story. It's freaking wild. And then watched Victor Crowley, which we'll talk about. And then I watched Jungle Cruise because some of my friends like had it ordered or whatever.
What'd you think?
I was pleasantly surprised. I gave it a 4 out of 10. So it wasn't garbage, but it was pretty
4 out of
bad.
10? Yeah. It looked like poor man's. I've heard it's poor man's Pirates of the Caribbean is what I've heard.
Yeah, it's like PG Pirates of the Caribbean, and if you took out Emily Blunt and The Rock, it's 1 out of 10.
Oh wow.
Because Emily Blunt is so hot. Holy fudge, dude. That woman is gorgeous. John Krasinski is one lucky man. She was 2.5 of those 3 points, or 2.5 of those 4 points in that movie. And The Rock was.
So this
a half
just
point.
in, I think if my wife had an actress that she looks most like, I would argue it's Emily Blunt meets like, I guess Jake Gyllenhaal according to Tatiana. But Emily Blunt meets like Alison Brie a little bit. But that's so funny that you mentioned Emily Blunt because that was probably the actress I would assume that looks most like my wife. And it's funny because a lot of people compared me to John Krasinski. Like I look like Jason Segel meets John Krasinski meets
A Mexican boy.
what's his face? What's that fat guy that was in
Chris Farley.
what's the movie? Did you see 30 Minutes or Less, Jordan? Not Danny McBride, but the other guy that's his brother. Did you see 30 Minutes or Less?
Yeah, at his brother. Yeah, the creepy
Yeah,
guy
that
from.
guy. That's who I look like.
The creepy guy from. Well, he's like, I want to wear your skin in Blades of Glory.
Yep, exactly. I'm that guy. I'm Jason Segel, that guy, and John Krasinski. That is me.
Yeah, and then the Jungle Cruise had an interesting random. One of the main actors or main characters was randomly gay, and so the rest of the viewing, and there's like this randomly some German. So the rest of the movie you already know we were just making constant Nazi and gay jokes. So that probably made the movie. If I watched it by myself, it'd probably be 1 out of 10. We were just making all these jokes about gay Nazis. It was pretty funny.
In Jungle Cruise, there's a gay Nazi?
No, there's a gay guy, and then there's also a German.
Gotta have those gay Nazis, Cameron.
No, the Nazi wasn't gay. There was a gay person, and then the Nazi like kept making comments about like wanting him to stay on the boat, and we were all like, "Oh, why do you want the gay guy to stay on your boat?" And then like the gay guy made a comment of like, "Why don't you bite on my?" It was a lot of weird stuff. But then I also watched The Revenant. Holy fudge, top 40 now.
I don't know, Karen. Let me know if you ever watch that movie again. Because, see, I saw it and I loved it. I thought it was a great film. But I'm like, I will never rewatch
Never.
But see, it's like Shawshank though. Just because you're not gonna rewatch it doesn't mean it's not gonna be in my top 50.
To be fair, I will rewatch Shawshank because I've actually seen it twice. I do like that movie.
I would rather rewatch Revenant than Shawshank.
No, sorry. I'll watch Shawshank. You look pretty
So
funny.
that's why I
with no
said
teeth.
I would rather, not you guys.
Cameron, if you had an actor that you looked alike, you'd be like Johnny Knoxville meets
Johnny Knoxville? No.
like oh, speaking of which, that's a movie I'm looking forward to seeing. That
Jack
trailer
looks
so funny. Jack 4 or whatever
Forever.
that trailer
Not look
looks
like Johnny
so
Knoxville.
funny.
You're actually high.
No, you kind of look like Johnny Knoxville. Who's an actor that Cameron looks alike? Johnny Knoxville meets Jim Carrey. Holy crap. That face you're making, you can look like Johnny Knoxville, Jim Carrey.
I've gotten that Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
I've had Jim Carrey compared to me a couple of times when I do like my weird faces. People are like, you kind of look like Jim Carrey sometimes.
Yeah, you can do it. And then Jordan, if you had an actor that looked a lot like you,
Satan.
Yes.
Okay, Nick Cage.
Nick Cage. The beard you're growing out, Jordan, you look like
Nick
Cage
reminds
from
me of
The Thing.
Nick Cage, Adam Sandler, and who's the third person?
I can see partial Adam Sandler. That's hilarious.
Dude, but our dad is totally Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson meets Kurt Russell. Yep,
Kurt Russell
exactly.
meets Robin Williams.
Oh, that's hilarious. I didn't even think about
Just
that.
a
Yeah, all
smidge
three
of
them.
Robin Williams in there.
Just a little sprinkle of. I'm trying to think of who you'd be if you were an actor. Like your closest Hollywood look-alike. I'll think of it. You're like Paul Dano. You have a little bit of Paul Dano.
Paul
in you,
Dano?
you know?
No. At Argentina, they said I looked like Jim Carrey, but I don't
Jim Carrey, that's hilarious. I've also been told I look like John Mayer. In some lightings, I can look like John Mayer. Say what you need to say. I can sing
Yeah,
like
and I
him,
look
too.
like Sean
Or
Mendes.
Ty's more like
Shawn
Adele.
Mendes? I look like Adele. I look like a beautifully robust
And okay,
woman.
so
British woman.
I also watched The Fault in Our Stars, which is actually had a great soundtrack and it was actually pretty enjoyable.
Still hate the ending. So wait. Fault in Our Stars. Oh wait, no, I'm thinking of Me Before You.
You're thinking of Me Before You.
Yes, I still hate that ending.
That ending is amazing. What a fudger. You're like one of those girls. He should have stayed alive. If you're living in hell every single day, I don't give a how freaking hot she is or how amazing she loves you. I'm dying.
It's just a very selfish thing to like find someone that actually
selfish
likes
thing
you.
to not want to live in misery. I know. What a terrible
Yeah,
person.
it is, dude.
No, it's a selfish thing to want him to stay. It's saying, "Oh, because I want you to suffer for the rest of your life." So
I
can
would
not
agree.
have to go
I would
through the
agree.
hurt of you leaving.
Slow down. I would agree if she had met him before his accident and then she like stuck around out of pity. But the fact that she fell in love after he was the way he was, like, no. Sorry.
Yeah,
he did
it
the
doesn't
wrong
matter.
thing.
It's not about his personality. It's about fetching his living conditions. If he's
Cameron,
in
I would
literal
love to meet
pain.
you the day where I'll be like, Cameron, you look like you're in a lot of pain. I'm just going to put you out of
Oh,
your
no,
misery
no.
right now. You're like, no, it has to be my choice.
No,
I'm
go
like,
ahead.
no.
I told mom and dad I want to have a DNR. I don't want to be resuscitated. First option, the first chance I get out of this world, I'm taking it, bro.
Cameron's going to be like a vegetable and we're going to be like feeding you through a tube and wiping your butt and be like, it's okay, Cameron. It's going to be okay.
I already told mom and dad that the moment I can't feed myself or wipe my own butt to kill me. I'm just looking forward to looking forward to Carnage, Venom.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
Seen
have
trailer.
to see it.
The trailer looks
I
sick,
have to see it.
but who knows?
Lots of love, guys. Check us out, futuremovies@gmail.com. Leave us an email. Check us out on Patreon, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Like us, share, subscribe. It's free, unless you go to Patreon. Apparently you can just give us money. So if you think all the money that you give to us will go back into the podcast somehow, I don't know how, but we'll get better sound equipment. Or
better mics.
get a
Are you kidding
soundboard
me?
and we can just make like fart noises.
Oh, we could get mics.
Or how about we could actually pay for this podcast because we're using money out of our own pocket.
Yeah, if you guys want to fund us. Otherwise, we'll have to get advertisers. Screw corporations, man. They're all evil.
Except VidAngel.
Stick
Because
to...
VidAngel hates corporations.
Well, they hate Disney, which is why I would love them as a sponsor. So far, we are not sponsored by them, so maybe someday. Guys, this is Future Hidden Movie Gems. We love you all. Stay safe out there. Peace.
Peace.
Where's my pig?
I'm looking for a truffle pig.